The Republican Party has been fractured, and MAGA is currently undergoing a civil war, or at least so it would seem, and this moment right here, from everything I'm seeing on social media, seems to be the defining moment responsible for it. Tucker Carlson hosted Nick Fuentes on his YouTube show the other day, and now the entire internet is up in arms about it, specifically the Republican Party and MAGA, as they can't decide if this is a good thing or a bad thing. This is an example of what we saw on the Tucker Carlson show, centered around his guest, Nick Fuentes, who is considered a very extreme far-right conservative.
And I think that neoconservatism, where does it arise from? It arises from Jewish leftists who were mugged by reality when they saw the surprise attack in the Yom Kippur War.
Yeah, well, that's a lot of it for sure. But then, like, how do you explain Mike Huckabee, Ted Cruz, and there are a lot like that, John Bolton. I mean, I've known them all, George W. Bush, like Karl Rove. I mean, all people I know personally who I've seen like be seized by this brain virus, and they're not Jewish. Most of them are self-described Christians, and then the Christian Zionists who are, well, Christian Zionists. Like, what is that?
Right.
And I could just say for myself, I dislike them more than anybody, because like, what? Because it's Christian heresy, and I'm offended by that as a Christian. That's why. So I don't, like, why not? Like, I'm pissed at the neocons, very pissed. I've said that a million times. I've been mad since December of 2003 when I went to Iraq.
In case you're out of the loop, Tucker Carlson has been making waves over the past, I'd say, year and a half or two, really speaking out against neoconservatism as well as sometimes Israel itself as a nation, calling into question a lot of Israel's actions when it comes to wars in the Middle East, etc. And Nick Fuentes is the kind of person who has been speaking about this now for years. He's actually been sort of canceled for a whole host of different things. He's not allowed to have a YouTube channel, to my knowledge at least, nor is he allowed on other certain platforms anymore. And the whole thing is, I'll speak from my own generational perspective on this right now, being a young millennial. There's a Middle East fatigue that is widespread amongst millennials and Gen Zers, because we grew up with this war in the Middle East that seemed to be never ending, didn't seem to be fruitful at all whatsoever, ended in catastrophe when dementia patient Joe Biden pulled the military out in disastrous fashion, giving them a bunch of free stuff, costing lives, etc. Obama kept the war going when he shouldn't have, probably. Bush started a couple of wars that he shouldn't have, like when it came to Iraq. It's been a disaster, and it's been decades of this now. I remember the times before the war in the Middle East, and they were great. And I remember growing up watching Michael Jordan play basketball, for instance, and the 90s were just this fantastic time. And then the Middle East wars came, and it's just like, that just destroyed our American culture in a way where it made everyone more sad and on edge and changed this way society does stuff. And it was just ridiculous to grow up in it. And that's really what this is, in my opinion, what is stemming from all of this. And so in a way, I actually understand where somebody like Tucker Carlson and even Nick Fuentes himself is coming from. However, not everyone does. This really sparked a movement on social media. You can see them holding up the signs, "Tucker is not MAGA." And, whether Tucker is or isn't MAGA isn't my concern. My concern is, in all honesty, the fact that so many people are focusing on this so much. And the point of this video is going to be to show you why this is all happening, but then also demonstrate to you why it really shouldn't matter all that much right now at this point in time. Because there's so many more important things happening right now in America's political landscape. So that's what I'm going to cover here. Starting first and foremost with what Ben Shapiro released just today. A near 45-minute long video to expose who Nick Fuentes is to the general American public, the general Republican voter base, etc., as well as Tucker Carlson. And so I'm going to play a couple of different clips throughout that video of what Ben Shapiro is showing here.
Hey, folks, I want to do something different on today's show. We're going to cover one topic in depth. That topic is, I think, the most important thing happening in the country. It was a hot topic last week, but I wanted to take some time to really gather my thoughts and speak on it in coherent fashion, holistic fashion. That topic is the fragmentation of the political right. That fragmentation is being caused purposefully by a splinter faction of people led by a young man named Nick Fuentes. They call themselves the Groypers. They are white supremacists. They hate women, Jews, Hindus, many types of Christians, brown people of a wide variety of backgrounds, blacks, America's foreign policy, and America's Constitution. They admire Hitler and Stalin. And that splinter faction is now being facilitated and normalized within the mainstream Republican Party. The main agent in that normalization is Tucker Carlson, who is an intellectual coward, a dishonest interlocutor, and a terrible friend. And Tucker Carlson last week was aided, abetted, celebrated for normalizing Nazism within the Republican Party by the mainstay organization of the traditional right, the Heritage Foundation. Now, before we explain what's been happening, let's make one thing clear. This is not about free speech or cancellation. It was never about free speech or cancellation. Free speech has a definition, the right to speak free of governmental coercion. I believe in it, of course. I've always defended it. Criticism of bad speech is, in fact, just a form of free speech. Cancellation also has a definition, the banning of particular people, including people like Nick Fuentes, from platforms like X or Facebook. I believe that Nick Fuentes is odious and despicable, but I've never called for his cancellation. And in fact, I've called for his restoration to those services, despite the fact that I think he's odious and despicable.
Here's what I want to point out with that speech there. I, first and foremost, agree with Ben Shapiro on the premise that free speech must remain free. And that includes the right of that being extended out to Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes. I actually find it beneficial to be able to listen to people like Carlson and Fuentes to get an idea of who they are and what they stand for. I think it's actually important that everybody has that opportunity to. And what you see happen, in all honesty, when you try to suppress people like Nick Fuentes is he winds up live streaming to 300,000 plus viewers concurrently at one point in time. Because if you tell people that they cannot listen to that person, they cannot do this thing, they cannot do this in America, the land of the free, you're going to get the literal opposite effect of that. And rightfully so. Now, where I disagree with Ben Shapiro on here is that he is calling this the most important thing happening in this country right now. No, it's not. And that's what my video right now is going to be all about. I'll get to that a little bit later, why it's not. It's the furthest thing from the most important thing happening in this country, to be honest with you. But Ben Shapiro would go on, and in all honesty, I don't want to use the word smear because he does say these things, but Ben Shapiro basically brings to light the things that Nick Fuentes has said in the past, like how he's very much so against women in politics.
Nick Fuentes says that women are whores who shouldn't be in politics.
I will continue my crusade against women in politics. It's always like this, and it's so ironic. Women are like, I don't like, when you say, I like, you have to affect the face. When you say to repeal the 19th Amendment, that offends me. That hurts my feelings. It's like, have you ever stopped and considered that maybe if you get offended, there's such a strong emotional reaction to political opinions you disagree with across the board? Maybe that's one of the reasons why you shouldn't be making political decisions. I'm not attacking women. I'm attacking whores. You have no problems, right?
Ben Shapiro would then go on to show the unflattering and very controversial take by Nick Fuentes on the Jim Crow laws.
Nick Fuentes says that Jim Crow was actually better for black people.
It was better for them too, number one, but number two, who cares? Who cares? You know, enough with the Jim Crow stuff. Who cares? Oh, to drink out of a different water fountain. Big fucking deal. Oh no, they had to go to a different school. Their water fountain in that famous picture was worse. Who cares? Grow up. Drink out of the fucking water fountain. It's water. It's the same. You know? And, you know, even if it was bad, who cares? Who cares? It's better. It's better in general. We all agree it was better for them. It's better for us. Better in general.
And finally, Ben Shapiro probably showing one of the things that he is most aggravated by Nick Fuentes on, shows Nick Fuentes' take on things like the Jews and how Nick Fuentes firmly believes that the Jews are usually, if not always, responsible for all of the new wars started across the world.
Nick Fuentes believes that the Jews start all the wars, that perfidious Jews in positions of power ought to be killed, and says the Jews are filth who have to be removed from the country.
And once again, remember who is responsible for it all: the Jews. They are responsible for every war in the world. It's not even debatable at this point. This has nothing to do with oil. This has nothing to do with democracy. This has nothing to do with liberal internationalism. We are at war with Iran because they pose a threat to Israel's hegemony. That's why we're bombing their nukes, to pave the way for regime change so Israel can dominate the region, because that makes them the most powerful they can be.
There is an occult element at the high levels of society, and specifically among the Jews. So many of the people that are perpetrating the lies and the destruction on the country, they are evildoers. They are people that worship false gods. They are people that practice magic or rituals or whatever. And more than anything, those people need to be, when we take power, they need to be given the death penalty.
Now, first and foremost, what I will say is I'm going to put a link to the full Ben Shapiro YouTube video here in the description of this video. I actually recommend you go check it out. You should, for yourself, go see these clips that Ben Shapiro has taken. Maybe some of them are out of context. Maybe some of them really aren't. And watch the full thing and see. He goes on to also talk about Tucker Carlson and kind of show weird clips of Tucker Carlson shopping in a Russian grocery store and calls Tucker a traitor or something. I don't know. Some of it does get a little goofy in my opinion. But what I will say, how I'm going to frame this for you, because I know most of my audience are boomers or Gen Xers. You grew up in a much different time. And I, as a young millennial, have one foot in my youth and one foot out of it. And I'm growing up and I'm getting older and I'm starting to focus on different things, care about different things. Even the way I talk has changed, to be honest with you. I'm not quite as angry of a person anymore. But what I can tell you is, as someone who interacts with Gen Z people and quite frankly loves the Gen Z generation overall as a whole, this Nick Fuentes, what he says and how he frames stuff is, in my experience, the way I've heard many Gen Z men also say and frame stuff. You don't have to like it, but that is what you should expect in that generation coming up. You see, Gen Z is an overcorrection of all of the liberal, woke, progressive restrictions on society in the form of political correctness and in the form of limited free speech and censorship, what you can and can't say, what you shouldn't say. Gen Z looks at all of that intuitively and collectively and says, fuck that. I want to say what I want to say, and I don't care who it offends. You don't have to like it, especially if you're a Gen Xer or a boomer. You grew up in a different time where saying things like what Nick Fuentes says is just so off limits. It's unfathomable to you that he says it, but yet here he is saying it. And I can tell you, in the gym I work out in, the humor amongst the Gen Z men is very Nick Fuentes-like. So are some of the stances that he takes. And so there's not much you can actually do about this. They are the overcorrection, and they are here, and they are coming up, and they represent that. Like it or not, that's the reality of it. I also, in the interest of fairness, want to highlight this clip from the Tucker Carlson show. This was Nick Fuentes' take on Ben Shapiro, his personal experiences dealing with Ben Shapiro as a young college kid. Now, if he is to be believed here, that's up to you, but this does help frame to some degree why he has the problems with Ben Shapiro, the Daily Wire, and perhaps Israel itself as a country, the Jews as people, all of it.
I tweeted to Ben Shapiro. I said, you know, I've never seen anything on the Daily Wire that's actually critical of Israel. And he quote tweets me. And at this time, I have 1,000 followers on Twitter.
How old are you?
I'm 18. I'm a
You're
freshman.
still a freshman in college, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And this is even before I started my show. And I don't know, I probably got 100 likes on this tweet. It wasn't a viral tweet. He quote tweets me and says, to accuse a Jew of dual loyalty is the surest sign of anti-Semitism. And like, this is how it sort of begins. And I see this tweet. And by the way, that was on Christmas Eve in 2016.
He immediately called you an anti-Semite.
Mm-hmm. So I'm driving to Christmas Eve Mass with my family. And I see on Twitter, the notification comes up, Ben Shapiro quote tweets me, calling me an anti-Semite. And I was like, what is this? Like, why is this guy attacking me? You know, because I don't have a platform at this time. I'm not an influential guy or anything. And so then I put out another tweet similar. I said something like, if you're China first, you should live in China. If you're Mexico first, you should live in Mexico. If you're Israel first, maybe you should go live in Israel. And again, he quote tweets me and says, you're an anti-Semite.
Now, here's what I want to say to add my own personal and subjective experiences into a clip like this. I will say, in the interest of fairness to someone like Nick Fuentes, I have experienced similar responses from Jewish people on social media. And I'm not anti-Israel. I'm just not pro-Israel. And I want to make that very clear to my audience here, my small but growing audience. This channel's name is American Advocates for a reason. I care about America. I live in America. I was born in America. It is my only priority, my only focal point. Restoring America to its glory, keeping America safe, keeping our freedoms safe, and ensuring that we vote for the right people who are going to do that for us. That is all that I care about on this channel. And so as a result of that, Israel, in my mind, is just like any other foreign nation. And some of those nations are our allies, and some of them aren't. And the ones who are our allies, I think about more and I care about more. And that includes Israel. The bottom line is there are times where I am pro-Israel to a degree, meaning I wish them well and I want them to do well. But there are other times, most of the time I would say, where I am Israel neutral. That's what I call it. I don't wish any ill will on Israel, but I also don't spend every single day thinking about Israel's security and Israel's success. I don't think about Israel every single day winning all of their wars. There is so much going on within our own country here in America that I just don't have the time nor the energy to even learn about everything happening over there, let alone to focus on it and advocate for it. And if you're watching that right now and that pisses you off, here's what I suggest you do. Take the name of this YouTube channel, American Advocates, and copy it and create an Israel Advocates YouTube. And then go make videos about Israel. That's not something I'll ever do, though. And I want to make that stance very clear here. And again, a boomer audience and a Gen Xer audience might find that shocking. They were raised to believe that Israel is this divine country. And to be on Israel's side is to be on God's side. And I don't know that I fully agree with that. I think it's heavily dependent on what Israel does. For instance, when they did the cell phone pager attack that took out tons of Taliban leaders, I'm all for it. Even bombing Iran's nuclear facilities, I had nothing against that. Where I was frustrated at that point in time was at the idea that it wouldn't end there and that boots on the ground would be deployed and that Israel would continue the war and then call upon us for aid. That's where I was frustrated because, again, it all goes back to the generations of Nick Fuentes, Gen Z, and mine, millennials, growing up during an excessively long 20-year war in the Middle East that ended in disaster. I don't want to see it again. I just don't. I think it's a waste of money. That is my stance on it, and I want to make that abundantly clear. But what has that stance garnered me, response-wise, when it comes to Jewish people or Israel First advocates on social media? Let me show you. Let me show you this. This is a tweet that I was participating in. It was a retweet from Andrew Wilson calling Brandon Tatum an ignorant fool because Brandon Tatum had tweeted that he was a proud Christian Zionist. I responded to it. I am a proud Christian nationalist American advocate. If you live in America, there's really no room to be labeling yourself anything other than an America First nationalist. The future of conservative politics will be this. The candidates will be required to say two things. Number one, Christ is Lord. Number two, America First. Those who do will be elected. Those who don't will be ejected and forced into the fence-riding, wannabe Democrat, modern independent party. That's my stance on that. And you can unsubscribe from this channel right now if you disagree with that for any reason, because I literally don't want you here at that point. America First, Christ is Lord. Get on board with that or get out. Simple as that. But look at the response that I got to that kind of a tweet. Now, this is a guy who in his bio claims that he's not Jewish. I'll believe him. I have no reason not to. But he says, you will lose all elections with that mentality. America First is not America only. Sorry. You can see the kind of stance that he's taking there, of course. He has his focal points on Israel. I then, of course, reply, America First means every decision you make is asked in the framing of, does this benefit America? If the answer is no, then why do it? Now look at this. This is the response immediately, the default response of this guy to that statement. He quotes it, does it benefit America to hate Jews or incessantly? Answer, no. Sorry, bro. You got to go back to your tiny hole in the ground. Maybe be more of a good person next go around. And so that's been my experience. I went on to reply to him more. I called him, a lot of different names at that point because I can't stand emotional arguments like that. I can't stand that whole, oh, well, gee, if you just hate Jews, say that kind of thing. That's how liberals argue. Let's be better than that. So just from saying that I am Israel neutral and sometimes pro-Israel. I literally get called a Jew hater and told to be a better person. That's from my stance. I think my stance is the most reasonable one. I am not a Nick Fuentes Israel hater. I am not a Tucker Carlson Israel conspiracy theorist. Nor am I a Ben Shapiro pro-Israel advocate. Because let me show you something else. Ben Shapiro wants to create that video showing you all of Nick Fuentes' worst takes and moments, along with Tucker Carlson grocery shopping in Russia and complaining about how the prices were cheaper. Well, this is what Ben Shapiro had to say about his loyalty to America.
Who has a brain and knows history has always wondered if a country that is not a Jewish state is going to eternally provide them security guarantees and full citizenship, of course. I mean, that's I think to think that that's why the existence of the state of Israel is the single greatest guarantor of my loyalty to the United States, frankly. Right? Because Israel exists, that means the United States is going to be a more welcoming place for me, because Israel is there as a backstop in case anything should go wrong.
And that really is the difference between someone like a Ben Shapiro and a me. Minus the fact that I will freely admit I'm probably nowhere near as good of a debater as Ben Shapiro is. I don't think, at least. I've never tried it. But the bottom line is, my loyalty to America does not depend on another nation's existence, like it does for Ben Shapiro, apparently, according to his own words. I don't know, who knows what happens. Let's say in a hypothetical, Israel gets wiped out. What does Ben Shapiro do? Don't know. Based off those words, I don't think anything good, to be honest with you. Who knows, though? Ben Shapiro is also not a big Trump supporter. He claimed Nick Fuentes wasn't, but neither is Ben Shapiro. I voted for Trump proudly in the last election, and I am an America First nationalist. End of story. Now let me get on to what actually matters, because this is just internet drama between Ben Shapiro, Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes. These are just political pundit talking heads at the end of the day. They're not actually what matters. They're all one individual person. Collectively, America as a sovereign nation matters. Our culture and society matters. And so here's an example of what matters. The Texas Senate passing their redistricting bill.
Sparks, West, and Zaffarini.
There being 18 ayes, 11 nays, House Bill 4 is finally passed.
And this is what Texas will look like now after the redistricting bill has been passed. They're squeezing out 5 Democrat seats here now that have just been eliminated, which will open up the window for 5 Republicans to gain seats. On top of that, here's another story that matters. The Supreme Court right now is literally hearing a landmark case, probably one of the most important 21st century Supreme Court cases that will be heard. Louisiana versus Callais. The court case that dares to challenge the Democrats' vile strategy of racial gerrymandering. They're entertaining oral arguments, and eventually they're going through a whole court proceeding over this. If ruled on correctly, this case will shut down racial gerrymandering that Democrats have used to their advantage to hold on to dozens of seats unfairly, forcing an overrepresentation of Democrats in red states. That will all come to an end, with Texas freeing up 5 new seats that they've eliminated from the Democrat hands, combined with Louisiana versus Callais. The Republicans for the midterms could wind up being upwards of 20 new seats, 19 to 20 seats. That's what matters right now. Not Ben Shapiro, Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes. This is just a skirmish over ideology and over different nations. Let me show you something else that matters right now. The New Jersey gubernatorial race that's happening right now, being voted on, I believe, tomorrow. The Republican governor candidate, Jack Ciattarelli, is well within the margin of error for Mickey Sherrill. He could actually defeat her, and New Jersey could actually vote in a Republican governor. This poll right here was conducted by one of the most accurate pollsters in 2024, which shows that Jack is literally less than 1 point behind Mickey Sherrill. That's what matters. This matters. North Carolina voter registration. This was a swing state in 2024 that the Democrats foolishly and honestly thought Kamala Harris had a great chance of winning. What's going on in 2025 in North Carolina? Their voter registration for Republicans is through the roof. Same with independents, which is actually a good sign for Republicans as well. But Republicans are about to have a plus 100,000 voter registration lead over Democrats as 2025 concludes. That matters. This is a good sign. This is what you want to pay attention to. This is what actually is important in this country. And Pennsylvania is following suit. Since December of last year, we've seen record numbers of Republicans registering to vote in the state of Pennsylvania, and it is now projected that Pennsylvania will flip from blue to red, from Democrat to Republican, by May 31st of 2030. The Democrats' current advantage in Pennsylvania is only 176,539. This time last year, November of 2024, the Democrats' advantage was 286,283. And if you go back to November of 2008 when Obama won, the Democrat advantage in Pennsylvania was 1,236,467. There are massive shifts happening all over this country. But if you're focusing on the wrong stuff, like drama over Nick Fuentes and Ben Shapiro, you're missing it. In summary, I want to leave you all with this message when it comes to this MAGA civil war and this Israel first versus America first. Does it matter? Is it a thing? Is Christian Zionism a thing? What about Christian nationalism? Is that any good? Let me just show you some poll results here. Younger Trump 2024 voters, that would be myself included, obviously, are significantly more likely to identify as America First Republicans, as opposed to the older generations who lean more towards traditional small government Republican style voting. You can see right here, all Trump 2024 voters, America First, those who identify as America First and voted for Trump in 2024, 51.9%. This represents the cultural shift. All Republican voters, America First, is creeping up to that 50% line, currently at 47.1%. Now you look at the age brackets. On the left, you can see age 18 to 29, 55.3%. And age 30 to 44, it's astronomical at 63.6%. And these are the two age demographics you want to pay attention to because they are creeping up into the present and simultaneously representing the future of America. Now you creep into that 45 to 64 range, the Xers. 48%. They're under 50. And when it comes to 65 plus, you have the boomers, 45%. Now, I don't know how I'm trying to wrap all of this up by showing you this. I am not on Nick Fuentes' side, nor am I on Ben Shapiro's side. I think he's a shill for Israel. I'm just going to say that. And I think Nick Fuentes is what we call an edgelord. He says the most offensive things for shock value humor, kind of like a modern day conservative Howard Stern. And it works. It gets him a lot of attention. And I'm not going to hate the player. I'm just going to hate the game. I'm going to hate the fact that that works, but it works nevertheless. On top of that, as I've explained to you, this is a generational and cultural shift, and it represents a massive overcorrection for what all of us had to endure over the last 20 or 30 years with liberals and the tone policing and the bitchy women Karens who squashed masculinity every chance they could get by telling us what we could or couldn't say, how we could or couldn't act as men, what we could or couldn't believe. This seeped into our churches, into our politics, into our culture, our entertainment, everywhere. And it's coming to an end. And in some ways, it's a good thing. It represents liberals losing control of everything all at once. In other ways, it's not the most flattering image. It's not a flattering image to have a young guy like Nick Fuentes on his Rumble show comparing Jews to cookies being baked in an oven. Not great. Not great. I don't approve of that. And so I am not a fence rider. I just don't care about this at all. And neither should you. Let's get back to focusing on what actually matters. The elections that we have coming up, not only this year, but especially next year in the midterms. The economy and what Trump is doing with that. What he's not doing with that. What he should be doing more of. The black robe tyrannical judges trying to hold him down. The insidious Democrats working overtime to stall the America First agenda that Trump is trying to execute. Let's focus on getting this movement going. Let's focus on making the Republican Party stronger. And let's focus on politically and peacefully destroying the enemy to America right now. And that is, of course, the liberal progressives. If we allow ourselves to descend into this political infighting and allow the Republican Party to be fractured now on the verge of a possible victory, we're doomed. The Democrats are biding their times like little cockroaches, waiting to see if they can grab back onto power. And if we split now, if we fracture now, if we cause a civil war in our own party, they will win, bottom line. Let me know what your thoughts and opinions are on all of this down in the comments below. Subscribe to American Advocates if you agree. But if for some reason now you think I'm not pro-Israel enough, or that I should support Nick Fuentes or Ben Shapiro loyally, which I'm not going to do either of, then please dislike this video, don't subscribe to this channel, unsubscribe from this channel, and never come back. That's the bottom line. Thanks so much for watching.